So Japan just had one of their Champions League tournaments, and these are massive major events. This one had around 5,000 players. It also had the newest set legal, the one with all the evolutions, and probably the most famous card from the set is Budew, the one everyone is fearing. And shockingly, there was no Budew in the finals at all, and an Archaludon Dialga deck took the whole thing down. This is kind of interesting because this could potentially be a result of Budew. I personally don't think the card is going to have as big of an impact as some people do. I think a lot of people are kind of coming around to that train of thought, but just looking at this deck, I think it would definitely do good against a item lock kind of deck just because it has way more draw support than a lot of the decks that we've been playing currently. The 4 research and the 3 Iono. It also has 2 Pokégear, which is kind of unfortunate for like item lock. It's just like a classic well-built deck. It also seems like it is very good in best of 1, I would imagine. It's very consistent. Yeah, I'm not really surprised after playing it and looking at it that it took down the event. We have a 4/4 Archaludon EX line. Archaludon is a stage 1 metal Pokemon with 300 hit points and an ability that says that we can take 2 metal energy out of our discard pile and attach them to our Pokemon, and it has an attack for 3 metal that does 220, and we don't have any weakness next turn. The Duraludon has a notable attack as well. For metal colorless, it does 80 plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. The way that we're going to abuse this is with the Relicanth. It has the ability that says our Pokemon can use the attacks of their previous evolutions. So our Archaludon can use that attack. We get hit for 200 by Regidrago. We can hit him back for 280. We have a 2/2 Dialga VSTAR. Dialga VSTAR's VSTAR attack is insane. It's 4 metal and 1 colorless, 220, and we get to take another turn. This alone can win us games, and it is going to win us a lot of the games. If one of our Pokemon were knocked out, we get to use Fezandipiti, use this VSTAR power, and we can use Fezandipiti again. So that's like 6 cards that we can draw into just while using this attack. It's kind of insane. It will let us get like back-to-back boss turns and just totally flip the game over and like end up winning games we probably shouldn't. So really good. It also has an attack for colorless. It does 40 plus 40 more damage for each metal energy on this Pokemon. That will allow us to one-shot anything with enough energy, so combined with the Archaludon ability, it's pretty great. We have Fezandipiti and Greninja for draw, as well as, you know, the 4 research, 3 Iono, 3 boss, and a counter catcher. Gust is really important when combined with Dialga's V-Star attack. One of the more interesting parts of this deck is the 2 Turo and the Scoop Up Cyclone and the Thorton. Thorton is pretty obvious. It lets us switch a basic Pokemon and play with a basic from our discard pile. It lets us get into Dialga V-Star's attack out of nowhere when our opponent didn't expect it, but I thought Scramble Switch was the obvious ace spec for this deck, but after playing with it with the Scoop Up Cyclone is probably better. It lets us heal, and it also functions as a switch, and most of the time it kind of can work the same as the Scramble Switch, where it can allow us to move energy from one Pokemon to another. Like we have Archaludon in the active, we pick it up, discard the energy, and evolve another Duraludon that we had on our bench, and then put that energy on the Dialga. So it does cover a lot of the same situations. Surprisingly, I was kind of skeptical at first, but after playing with it, I think it is a bit better. Turo does basically the same thing, but it's a supporter. This deck has 4 Night Stretcher. I wouldn't hate switching one of the Night Stretchers for a Vessel. I imagine that some of the decisions are due to Japan tournaments being best of 1, so you want your deck to be as consistent as possible, and this deck is definitely consistent. And we also have 2 Jamming Tower in here. There was a lot of Jamming Tower in the top cut. I think they must have been really worried about Guardy. Maybe there were some other like tool decks that I'm not thinking of right now, and I just want to take a moment to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. And I just wanted to shout out this absolute legend for the donation. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. That is super helpful right now, and yeah, just can't thank you guys enough. So let's get into the games. All right, this first game is up against Raging Bolt. At this point, it could be Raging Bolt or Regidrago. I didn't really know yet, or maybe I saw Mulligan, I'm not sure, but I used the Greninja there first before the Nest Ball because I wanted to get more basic Pokemon into my hand, and using the ability in this order allowed me to draw into another Duraludon, so I was able to get 2 down. That is pretty important because Raging Bolt's definitely a deck that can knock out one of my evolving basics pretty easily turn 1. I do not bench the Dialga because I think they did Mulligan and I saw that it was Raging Bolt, and I don't want to give them a 2 prize target right away because that could just lose me the game on the spot. This way, they're forced to take out a 1 prize Pokemon, and that will allow us to get back ahead in the prize trade with Dialga V-Star's V-Star attack. It's just, this matchup can definitely be a little tricky. Gust can be super important because we want to take out an Ogerpon with Archaludon, and then we also want to be able to boss on our V-Star attack turn. we either need to boss on the VSTAR attack turn or have already hit into the Raging Bolt with an Archaludon so that we can take the 2 prizes with the VSTAR and then take the other 2 next turn and win with like a 4 prize turn. Alright, so that Archaludon top deck is, I don't know, it's fine, not really super important. I already plan to kind of retreat the Greninja and then use the ability right here to put the 2 energy onto the Archaludon so that I could get an attack. I was hoping they wouldn't be able to Bravery Charm their Ogerpon, but they did. Also, I can bench the Dialga now because I'm going to be attacking first. I should be able to get ahead in the prize trade. I was also really hoping to hit a Jamming Tower. This deck does play 2, so there were some odds there for me to hit it, but I do end up whiffing it. Essentially, at this point, I need them to not hit a switch card. If they have to hard retreat this Ogerpon, I think that we're in a favored spot. If they switch card, things get a little weird, where my plan at the time was to finish the Ogerpon off with the Duraludon's first attack that just does 30 for 1. So I was going to try to get to a 1 prize board state and boss up that Ogerpon, knock it out with the Duraludon, and then the turn after that, or the turn before that, use Dialga's VSTAR to take 4 prizes. Something like that. I don't know, that was just kind of what I was thinking. My opponent preemptively benches a Fezandipiti, and I don't know, that's fine. It's definitely a good target for the either just an Archaludon to knock out or Dialga's VSTAR attack. And honestly, this is kind of an awkward turn here, like a decision I have to make. I have to decide if I'm setting up the Dialga and just hoping to draw a counter catcher off the research, or if I'm gonna attack with an Archaludon. I end up going for the kind of safe play. It's a more guaranteed to happen play, but it's not safe in the sense that my opponent could just boss up my Dialga V and knock it out, and I don't particularly want to put another Dialga down. So I'm just kind of hoping either they can't knock it out next turn, or that I can combine, or that I can get a Thorton play off on my next turn. So bench the Fezandipiti, attach the Metal and Research. This hand is, I don't know, it's pretty fine. I can at least get down another Duraludon, hopefully, and yeah, definitely with the Night Stretchers, it makes it pretty reliable to get more Duraludons down. So that next turn, I can almost certainly get into the Dialga VSTAR attack. If they like knock out my Fezandipiti, I can Stretcher for it. If they knock out my Dialga, I have decent chance to draw Thorton, I guess. There's only 18 cards left in the deck. I'm pretty sure it wasn't prized if I remember correctly, but yeah. My opponent here rips the Pokestop, and they kind of probably feel like they're in a really good spot. It can be pretty easy to underestimate like Dialga VSTAR decks. You don't realize how quick you end up losing from behind. I don't know if they knew the list or not. If they did, they probably were hoping that I would knock out their Raging Bolt so that they could promote their Ogerpon this turn and switch card it so that the Jamming Tower couldn't lead to a knockout. But I did not do that. I couldn't have knocked out their Archaludon even if I wanted to, but just because of that being possibly a game-losing play for me, I definitely did not want to knock it out. And they did have the switch card, so that would have been kind of tough to deal with. They bring up my Fezandipiti. That was a bit of a mistake. They would have had to lose all their energy to knock out the Dialga V, but I think the Dialga V is the real threat here, and that's what they should have gone for. I was kind of relieved to see, I was very relieved actually to see that they brought up the Fezandipiti. I do have kind of a tough choice here of whether or not I'm going to retreat, like promote my Archaludon and retreat some energy off of it and then scoop it up, or if I just want to get the energy into the discard pile or not. That's why that took me so long. So yeah, I do end up putting up the Dialga, and yeah, I have everything I need now to get off the VSTAR attack. I just need to get a gusting effect. Yeah, that's basically all I need. I need a either a boss or counter catcher, and there's 3 boss and a counter catcher in the deck, and I have access to Greninja and Fezandipiti, and I could rip Pokestop if I want to, even though that's super risky with with one of my Jamming Towers being prized. I milled the other one, that could potentially lose me the game. A stretcher for the Fezandipiti. I should have done that before using all my abilities, but I didn't think of it till the last second. Like, that just lets me see the rest of my deck and guarantee that I win the game here. I use the boss more notably instead of the counter catcher because next turn I can combine counter catcher with research to draw my whole deck. And another thing I decide to do is scoop up the Archaludon. I don't think that was necessary, but it does give me access to more energy cards next turn if I want. Just being able to use another Archaludon ability could potentially be nice. I should have Ultra Balled before using Greninja there, just to pull one of the Pokemon out of my deck. It really didn't matter. I'm seeing my whole deck anyway. All that I need is the Jamming Tower Stadium, and I need to use Counter Catcher before using the Jamming Tower because that would be game losing. But I end up hitting everything. My opponent decides to concede here in a second. We end up taking that game pretty convincingly. This game we are up against a Regidrago deck. I'm not sure. This seems like a pretty bad matchup in my head just thinking about it, but I think any deck with a bunch of Pokemon below 220 hit points is just not that bad of a matchup. Also, this is kind of a weird start for my opponent to deal with. Like, I'm going to Vessel away an energy and then Ultra Ball away or Research away another energy and use Dialga V's first attack that lets me accelerate 2 energy from the discard pile to it. So I'm going to be presenting them with a 3 energy Dialga for them to deal with on their second turn. And they got no Ogerpons in play, so it's going to be kind of tough for them, I think. Here I'm just checking my prizes real quick, and I definitely want to Vessel and Ultra Ball for another Duraludon. Like I said, attach the energy. Getting down a bunch of Duraludon is like really the first kind of barrier to get through, but once we get 2 or 3 down, the game ends up feeling pretty good, or the deck ends up running like really smoothly. And I don't know, with the stretchers and the Nest Balls, it seems like getting back into Duraludons and getting them down is, you know, pretty reliable. I Nest Ball there for a Greninja. I kind of had to get that. My hand was basically dead, so, you know, I needed the Greninja to draw cards this turn and the next turn. I debated playing the Vessel there, but decided not to. My opponent could Iono me, and I don't want all my energy put on the bottom of the deck. Next turn, I can Vessel if I need to, and just decide everything from there. I'll have much more information at that point. My opponent definitely could have Iono'd me, it looks like, so kind of glad that I saved it. So my opponent has a Giratina and a Goodra in their discard pile right now. I think that they went out of their way to get Goodra, so they obviously think that's going to be a very good attacker in this matchup, but Goodra doesn't do 220 damage, and the attack's going to kind of be useless because of my VSTAR attack. Like, especially if I can get back-to-back boss's orders, I can boss, knock out an Ogerpon, and then boss, knock out the Regidrago, and just win the game off that. But even if I just have to hit into this VSTAR for a little bit and knock it out the next turn, that is kind of fine just because they didn't get another Drago V down. So their attacker that they're kind of going to have to rely on is either Radiant Charizard, or I'm sure that they might have been planning to finish off this Dialga V-Star with an Ogerpon. But what I'm kind of thinking is if I can get into a Scoop Up Cyclone or like a Turo for next turn and finish off this Drago V-Star with an Archaludon, they won't be able to knock it out. Like, the Ogerpon won't do enough damage, and Radiant Charizard will only do 250 because of the secondary, or the only effect of Archaludon's attack is that it has no weakness next turn. So that's kind of the plan that I'm thinking right now. I evolved my second Archaludon to have, you know, it ready to attack. I debate whether or not to throw down the Fezandipiti, but I ultimately end up doing it. It's just a nice Pokemon to have in play, and there's really no point not to put it down. I just attack here. There's literally not another card I can play, so I attack, skip their turn, and this kind of feels bad to lose this hand, but only really because of the boss and the Night Stretcher. All in all, it's not too bad. I do end up drawing into the Scoop Up Cyclone, so I can do what I was saying. I can also Nest Ball for another Duraludon. I'm going to scoop up the Dialga, Vessel away one of the energies, and I think that I'm going to leave the Oh no, I don't even vessel it away. Or I vessel after. That's kind of weird, but I can also play the Pal Pad and get back to research or research Thorton. That is kind of a hard decision because, I don't know, Thorton is just one of those cards that like always comes in handy when I don't expect it. But I think at this point, I really just need to be guaranteed to draw cards. And if they try to like boss stall, I at least want to research to try and get back into another Turo. I do eventually vessel, and I do that all that in a weird order, but I never planned on taking the energy out of the deck, so it didn't really matter. I was going to leave it in, you know, for Iono so that I can have an option to draw the energy off Iono to draw with Greninja. Even though they are already down 2 Ionos, I think a lot of Dragos have been playing 3 copies of it, so I don't want to risk it. I'm in a really good lead right now, so I just kind of want to keep it that way and just, you know, do nothing that can lose me the game. I don't even re-bench the Dialga because it has fire weakness and my opponent can't evolve out of range of my Archaludon's attack this turn. So they bench a Drago B. I think next turn I would, I don't know, it's kind of tough. It depends. They're probably going to leave Clef in the active. So I'm more than likely going to have to boss. But the perfect turn would be to Turo up this Archaludon on the bench with no energy attached to it and bench, I don't know, I'm kind of undecided on benching the Dialga. It would be nice to have down for an option to knock out a Drago VSTAR later in the game, but I could just rely on hitting 2 bosses orders at that point, or like back-to-back boss, which I think was pretty good odds. My opponent Ultra Balls there though and just concedes the game, which I thought was a little weird, but you know, take the win. Sorry the second game wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. You know, things are really tight with the holidays right now and stuff. And I'm doing this on Christmas Eve. And not much time. Everyone at my house is home, and it's usually hard to record audio when everyone's home, but I managed to set some of my stuff up in a downstairs room. So if this ends up working out, I might be able to like stream a little bit if anyone's interested in that. But yeah, that is Archaludon. Definitely a fun deck to play. Definitely going to be playing it more. I think it's really cool. I hope it ends up being a part of the meta, because I don't know, I think this card is cool. It's got a cool ability. These more reliable, consistent decks are always nice to play. But yeah, that was the deck. Hope y'all enjoyed. You know, like and comment. Apparently that makes me get better ads on videos, I heard somewhere. So like and comment, subscribe and stuff, and you know, have a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or whatever you celebrate, and take care and have a good one.